I am your host, Carrie Scollin, giving us different perspectives on where we are and where we want to go on our journey. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to spending some time with you. Hi, everyone. It's Carrie Scollin with the Founder Series with another very fascinating guest, is what I would say, how I would describe her. I am going to introduce you to a woman who I find extremely inspirational. I love what she is doing in the world. I think we have quite a similar mission when it comes to empowering women. And I am thrilled to introduce you to Ashley of Ashley Dawn Coaching. Ashley, thank you so much for being here. I am thrilled that you said yes. What you are doing and putting out into the world, I think is just it's admirable, and it's needed. I think that's one of the biggest things, is how needed the work that you're offering people. And I'm thrilled that you're here, and I'm thrilled to be a part of what you're doing next. So welcome, come on in. We're going to get a little bit of your story to start us off, and then we are going to take it from there. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me as well.
I know that the start of your story is really, you were young, you had $300 in your pocket, and you really set off to start a new life. Like you were, even thinking about that is terrifying to me, but extremely inspirational, and shows so much of the core that you are, of being so courageous. And I think that's what drew me to you for sure. And that feeling I had of you being such an authentic person, really with the intention of helping others. So tell us a little bit about that. Where did that courage come from? Like, my gosh.
Yeah, thank you for just the kind words in general, first of all. But when it comes to the $300, so I grew up in a very, very, very small town. And when it comes to like who I was supposed to be as a woman, it was one of those things where it was very scripted of who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to become. And for whatever reason, a long time ago, I was like, I'm not going to be like the people in my community. Like, there's something that's different. I know that I'm meant to do something more than this. Like, I want to be able to use my skills. So even something like going off to go to school for psychology, everyone's like, what are you thinking about? That's going to be a waste of money. Like, why do you care about mental health? And people just didn't see that in our community. And then, yeah, I had to kind of choose, do I want small town life, and do I want the things that are happening in my small town, or do I want to be able to go do my passion, which was helping other people? I've always been that person that one friend is having a hard day, but no one else noticed, and I could just pick it up, and that was my gift. So I knew that it was something I wanted to do, so passionate about it. And I was like, okay, here we go. So legit, luckily had a $300 check. We're not going to go into that part of the story today, but luckily had a $300 check on me. And that's how I kind of started my life. And the courage piece, I think it's because I had other strong women who like helped me along the way. So oftentimes people are like, oh, Ashley, your story is so inspiring. How did you do that all alone? And I didn't. I had people along my path that really shaped who I am today. And this is the part where we might get a little bit more emotional, but we'll see where it goes.
That's okay.
But anyways, when it comes to that, giving that gift back that those women gave me. So that is why we're doing Ashley Dawn Coaching. So I have experience working in the mental health field. I have experience with my own lived experience, and then I have a lot of education in psychology as well. So it's one of those things where it's like, the world's in a dark place right now. There's so many women who are constantly being told who they're supposed to be, and they're just really unhappy. They feel stuck. They've lost that sparkle that makes them who they're supposed to be, kind of thing, right? So they listen to everyone else's voice over their own. And I was lucky enough to like for whatever reason, I chose to listen to that voice no matter what throughout
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
But then about 3 years ago, I stopped listening to it as much. And I was like, oh no, I lost my own sparkle. And it was
Mm,
one of those things of like, well, what happened? And I think that's where a lot of women are sitting is like, well, what happened that I lost my sparkle? Because we don't notice it dimming
right.
over time.
Yes,
It's all of
totally.
a sudden like an awakening of, oh, look,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, like I had to really sit down and be like, what is going on? And
Hmm.
part of it was the mindset of about like who women are supposed to be and settling for less than we want, less than we deserve, less than we dream. And I started over again.
Ah,
So imagine that starting over twice,
yeah.
but using those skills that I like had to start from scratch of like, who am I?
Yeah.
And what do I actually want out of life? And again, going back to that inner voice.
Yeah.
And when I think about that sparkle, I had to do a reframe about it's not gone, it's just dimmed. It's
Yeah.
always there,
Yeah.
but we just have to kind of reignite it. So that's
Absolutely.
where for my new path. It's going
Yeah.
to help 20-year olds, 30-year olds kind of thing figure out what to kind of do and where to go next before
Hmm.
it gets to a point where it takes over their lives. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're like, what's happening? Right.
Yes.
So that's kind of where we're at with this journey
Amazing.
so far.
Amazing. I love it. And when you say the 20, 30-year-olds, you're also describing 50-year-olds. And
Yeah.
and I can say that for myself. So I think you are actually going to reach a lot more women and men. Men
Hmm.
might be part of your thing too. I'm not sure. We're just focusing
Yeah.
on the women part. Um,
Hmm.
because I think it doesn't matter the age, actually.
Yeah.
We all go through periods where we may have dimmed our own light,
Yeah.
right? And so I love that you're bringing this to people's awareness because, like you said, it's a slow burn for a lot of people, and then all of a sudden they wake up one day and they're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm not feeling fulfilled. I don't feel joy. Where did that go? And it's like,
Hmm.
where did I go?
Yeah.
And that sparkle, I love the piece that you talk about that, but it's conversations like this that are gonna spark something in somebody else and go, oh, I never thought about it that way. Or,
Hmm.
you're just bringing light to a topic and a situation that I think a lot of women find themselves in. And I like how you said, 20, 30-year olds, because you're in that category for sure.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, how in the medical field we're always looking at the illness or looking at the, not the root cause of it. You're on the almost at the prevention part.
Oh
Like
yeah.
let's get this before it takes over, and then you've got all even
Mhm.
more work to do to find your spark again.
Oh
So
yeah.
just so tell me some of the things that you do in your practice.
So, it's been a long time coming, but by September 1st is the goal.
Yep.
I'm going to be releasing some new courses. So, when it comes to
Awesome.
these courses, it's going to be focused on being like from stuck to sparkling and how do
Yeah.
we kind of make sure that we don't lose that.
Hmm.
So, another piece that I noticed is with the pandemic and just with everything that's going on in life. Um, it's expensive too. And I know that sometimes for courses, it's like, okay, like, is it really going to be something that, like, what am I going to get out of this kind of thing?
Transformative.
So,
Yeah.
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 And it's scary to do that. So, like, for myself, even when I was back stuck, I'm like, well, why would I want to work on like professional development, personal development type stuff if I'm so lost right now on what I want or anything? Right.
Right. Right.
So these courses are focused more on like, okay, where is that sparkle? What brings it out of you? So
Hmm.
that way it's not like you have to figure out your whole life path by tomorrow or
Yes.
anything like that
Yes.
either.
Because that's
Because when we,
overwhelming, right? That's
oh yeah,
overwhelming. So you don't even
yeah,
start. So
oh yeah,
you're like, let's just dip our toe in, not
yeah.
so intimidating,
Yeah.
right? For someone to want to start.
And yeah, and I think if we don't take the time to normalize and acknowledge like why we feel these ways and the messages that happen, how are
Mhm.
we ever going to figure out how to unravel all of that, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
something that I joke around with my friends all the time, when I was in high school, I don't know where this came from, and like I use it as my example all the time. For whatever reason, women are supposed to be 120 pounds in my mind. I don't know why, don't know
Yeah.
where that came from. Talk to friends from
Yeah.
different cities and they're like, "Yep, that's same thing. I don't know where I learned." Right? So it's like, well, why do we need to be 120 pounds? And
Yeah.
like, I was an athlete in high school. I was like, I never fit that because I had muscle mass. I was always bigger than my friends. And I was like, what is happening right now? Right?
Yeah.
Like, they're size double zeros and I'm a size three. I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to be something different. So
Mm.
there's such an impact about the messages and environments that we have too.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes like leaving my hometown, for example, if I didn't do that, I don't think I would be able to thrive in the same way that I did. I had to
Mhm.
leave a certain environment. So sometimes like there's a lot of women who get stuck in very toxic relationships with their family, with partners, whatever it might be too, right?
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
leaves them just where do we go next? And
Yeah.
you just get used to it.
Yeah.
And luckily for myself, after I like moved away from home and all that type of stuff and like my hometown, there
Mhm.
wasn't that huge piece, but there was also that voice of like, how am I supposed to show up for my partner? How am I
Right.
supposed to show up for this? And like the messages nowadays about kids too, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's like, well, you have to have children. No, you don't,
No, you
right?
don't.
So
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
okay, what does it mean to be a woman? And I think about just like every message that you possibly get.
Yeah.
And it's like, start being critical about why does that matter?
Yeah.
So, another example, and it's going to seem maybe silly to some people, maybe not. Some people are like, oh my goodness, no, I need that in my life. And that's perfectly fine because that's you and you get to choose that. But for me, like growing up, it was always the house has to be so spotless that if someone looked at the back of your toilet, like that was even clean kind of thing. Right. And I think that's a little pressure for women, especially
Yeah.
like working full time, taking care of kids and keeping a spotless house. Right.
Yeah.
Like, how are we supposed to do it all?
Yeah.
So I always joke around about like that was one of the things that I threw out the door. I'm like, no, I actually don't care that much about. And don't get me wrong, I still make sure my place is
Of
clean,
course. Of course.
but
Yes.
like
Yeah.
not every single day to a point where I can't do everything in my life because I'm
Yeah.
too busy cleaning for someone who's not coming over, right? Like
Yes.
if
Yes.
someone's coming over, sure. Or like the general cleanliness in your house to feel good, sure. But why
Absolutely.
are we doing all these extra things that take up
Yes.
so much energy and time
Yeah.
that really don't matter?
That
And then things
so
like
true.
getting like a tattoo as a woman. I know for myself, I was in the back of my head being like, I'm going to be seen as less professional because of that. But if a man did that, it would be fine,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like just all of these things that somebody, and again, nobody, if you ask somebody who came up with this rule, nobody can tell you.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
absolutely nobody can tell you.
So
But
true.
somehow we get so hard on ourselves as women and we internalize all of those messages. But
Mhm.
then we also push that on all of the other women in our lives too and reinforce that stereotype of who we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And part of this is just breaking the doors wide open.
Yeah.
And the going back to the $300 to my name kind of thing,
Yeah.
like I really had to choose back then, like, who do you want to become? And I think that when we think about where are we going to move next and like what's going to get us that sparkle back, I'm such a strong believer in using your strengths every single day. So,
Mhm.
for example, my greatest or one of my greatest strengths, and if you're not sure what your strengths are, and you're like, who am I? Go challenge yourself to take an online test about character strengths. It'll just fascinate you to see, like, nope, that doesn't describe me at all, or yep, that's like to a T, right?
I like
To
that you
just
bring
give
that
you an
up.
idea.
I like that you bring that up because I think there's a lot of people that don't recognize their own strengths.
Hmm.
Sometimes other people will tell them what they
Oh,
see,
yeah.
but I think for some of us, it's really hard to go, I'm actually that I think I'm really good at that because we're so tuned to not and bragging isn't the right word, but we're not even aware of our own strengths. I think that's getting better.
Yeah.
But I love that yeah, let's focus on the strengths. If you don't know what your strengths are, let's find them. Let's find them for you or together, or we will figure this out.
Yeah, because I
Yes,
give the
yes,
example, like, math is not my jam. Let's just put it
right.
that way. I
Yeah,
use a calculator for everything. I double check with Google, like, I'm not good at math.
yeah.
And if I had to go do a job, say my family said I needed to become a banker or I needed to go into finance or whatever, and I listened to that message, I'd be miserable because
Yeah,
it's doing something I hate every single day that
yeah.
I'm not good at. And if I don't, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your job because I get it. Money's money. We all need to work. We need some type of living kind of thing. Um, but finding something outside of work then. So a
Mm,
hobby, a side hustle, whatever it might be,
yeah,
to just give us that passion back. So luckily, again, I don't know how exactly I did it because looking back at 18-year-old
I
me,
know.
I'm like, she was just that rebellious girl that's like, nope, I'm taking on the world. Just watch
Yeah.
me. And you just have to like do that internal thinking. And it's that little voice that the second you hear yourself say, but, that's the
Hmm.
voice you need to go back and go, nope, what was that? Because that word
Hmm.
but negates everything after that in any
Yes,
context.
yes.
Whenever you say but, it's gone. Like you could say,
So
hey, Carrie,
true.
you're the nicest human being ever, but, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I'm not that person anymore, right?
Yes,
Like,
so true. Yep.
right.
The power of a
So we
word.
need, yeah. So we
Yeah.
need to like hone in on what was that voice telling me before I said an excuse or a reason or whatever it might be of why I can't be
Yeah.
that thing or why I can't become them?
Hmm.
Because if I didn't listen to that, I would be on dating some hockey player or married to a hockey player with kids living on a farm, probably. And that's not who I am,
Right.
right? So
Right.
it's one of those things where a lot of women just give up and they settle into that this is how it's supposed to be because they don't know what else is out there, right?
Right.
They need other women to see that in themselves
Yeah.
and help them. So earlier you were saying like the bragging piece, and I always talk about celebrate your wins. Like I'm that
Yes.
friend, that family member, whatever, celebrate your wins and
Yeah.
also share your gratitude for each other and like what you're
Hmm.
doing all the time
Absolutely.
because that is what changes the world, brings people's sparkles out,
Yeah.
right? Like
100%.
it's not just one-on-one work. It's trying
Yeah.
to build that community of women
Yeah.
who support each other and maintaining their sparkle at the very least so they don't get it more dull,
Yes.
but brightening it to the best of their ability.
Yeah. And it's a practice. It's a
Hmm.
practice. And maybe some people when they start, which is probably how I started, was recognizing other people's strengths.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like you said, sharing that, like you are so good at that. I love the way you do that. Or when you smile, it lights up a room. It makes me feel good. Like whatever that is, and you're practicing that. And it's got to be authentic. I mean, you're not just going around saying these things. We know when we're being authentic or not. And then you've got to
Hmm.
remember to put yourself in that own in that category too. Like you said, I have a not a demand, but I very strong when that women have everybody has a win book and you write
Hmm.
down your wins because you know what? That's the first thing we forget.
Oh
Our
yeah.
minds
Yeah.
go to what we didn't do or what we should have said, or it's like we all go back to that. But get yourself a book and it's got wins across the front of it. And every time, it doesn't matter, you've got to win every day. And maybe it was just getting up and putting your clothes on that was a win for today. Like it can be
Yeah.
something like that. It can be something big. It doesn't matter. But we need a little book to remind us that
Hmm.
we are accomplishing something, you
And I
know?
think you have a really good point with that too, because like for habit building, think about,
Yeah.
I'm going to use working out as an example. If we don't reinforce what we're doing, that's great. We don't see that progress. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden we're like, oh, it's been a week. I'm going to give up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh, it
Yeah.
was January. I was like, I'm gonna have a new year, new me.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden we're like, oh, didn't see the results, gave up.
Yeah.
And that's something like one piece that I talk about in my courses, but just in life in general, is like gratitude changed my life.
Oh, me
Because
too.
gratitude also like it doesn't just stop you in your tracks and like actually focus on the present moment and like what you want and all of that, but it helps you think about the things you don't want in your life anymore.
Mm.
So I'm grateful that I get to go and share these powers with everybody of just kindness and empathy and
Yeah.
creativity. But I don't want all of this extra, I don't know, paperwork or whatever it
Right.
might be, right?
Right. Yeah.
So as you're in that place, you eventually start to just keep adding to the more things that you're grateful for, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm really grateful that I get to share my gifts, I'm going to do that more often because you're highlighting it. Your brain's looking for those opportunities,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes, it's the evidence, right? Evidence of how it makes
Mm-hmm.
you feel. So you're going to keep
Yeah.
doing it if it's making you feel good. And
Yeah.
gratitude, I 100% agree with you. That is something that I practice like nothing else. That is probably the my best practice is my gratitude practice, and I do it all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm
Well,
very aware of that
mm-hmm.
and saying thank you. Like I say thank you
Yeah.
just out of the blue all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for whatever it is, for my walk down by the water, for a cute puppy that I saw on the street, for the little kids who are walking from daycare, and one of them said hi to me. I'm like, oh, and
Oh,
I was at the sidewalk. I was waiting to cross, and it was International Women's Day, and the school had come out, and there was this little girl that was whipping across the crosswalk, and she stopped right in front of me. She said, "Happy International Women's Day," and I just looked at her. I'm like, oh, like
thank you.
it's just it's moments that we I needed to just stop there and just be so appreciative in that moment of for that little girl to say it. I was just so proud of her for saying it and
Yeah.
acknowledging it, but it that gave me more. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it probably made her feel good too, but it made me feel amazing. And and to be thankful for those moments.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the gratitude
Yeah.
practice is huge. You can do it anytime. You can write it out, you can just think it, you can say
Yeah.
it, whatever it is, but it's a practice that I think is life-changing. I don't say a lot of
Yeah.
things are life-changing, but a gratitude practice is life-changing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been over 700 days or something like that now. And I'm like, oh, well, I just do it automatically at this
Yeah.
point, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
a whole thought thing. But
Yeah.
let me tell you, when I first started and I was like that stuck point, decided I was
Yeah.
going to change my life, um, left a relationship, was like moving out on my own kind of thing, like new
Yeah.
adventure, starting over. And I'm sitting down and somebody, I think it was someone on social media, was like, yeah, practice gratitude daily. And like all those tags of only try this if you're ready for your life to change forever type
Yeah.
things. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, you're full of crap.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. It's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, no, it actually happened. Like, how
It
did we
actually
get here?
works. It works.
Right.
So that's obviously going to be a piece of your coaching. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing that you touched on that I believe is something for all of us to look at. And that is maybe we don't know what we want, but we're going to make steps to uncover that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, and you touched on this, was the beliefs that we have that may be stopping us from getting there, and just kind of taking a look at where those beliefs actually came from. And the
Mm-hmm.
belief is just a thought that we've said over and over and over, or was said to us, or
Mm-hmm.
social, culturally, whatever that is. Um, but I think that's a really important piece because, and that's just on my personal development growth was, what is it that's holding me back? And I
Mm-hmm.
started to uncover some of these things that beliefs I didn't even realize I had, right?
Yeah.
So that's got to be something that you're covering as well,
Oh, yeah.
helping them with the awareness around what the belief is, the limiting belief, because they do limit us. I mean, some beliefs are amazing and they
Mm-hmm.
don't limit us, but we have limiting beliefs that have come.
Oh, yeah.
and just they keep us stuck,
Oh, yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, tell me, give me.
Yeah. So, and this is the mixture of like the mental health knowledge kind of thing.
Hmm.
This is the psychology. This is like, it's all wrapped in one.
Yes.
Yes. Was just telling a friend the other day, like, you can't really unravel all of that once you make those connections between everything.
Hmm.
And a long time ago when I was thinking about like limiting beliefs, like I can't was the first one that stood out to me because the
Okay.
second we say I can't,
Yeah.
then game's over. Like we've already defeated ourselves. Like
Yeah.
we're,
Yeah.
I don't know, in a video game and just like fell off a cliff kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Like there's
Yeah.
no going back from I can't
Can't. Yeah.
unless you catch yourself. And it's
Right.
really hard to catch yourself.
Yeah.
So I know this is going to sound ridiculous and everybody can have their beliefs and thoughts about it. I'm totally fine with that. But if you really want to catch your negative thoughts, sit in your car and talk to yourself. So instead of thinking out or in your head,
Yeah.
just think out loud. So it depends if you have kids in the car or other
Yeah.
things. Like you might just want to pre-frame why all of a sudden you're talking to yourself
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
um, you might look like you're not okay if you don't pre-frame with your friends and family,
Yes.
but it's something that like from one appointment to another appointment or just like before bed or like when you're in the shower, like wherever you can. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be super loud,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just audible enough that you can hear it because that changes the dynamic so much. If it's in
Hmm.
our head, we start to spiral so much, but then when we hear it, it's a totally different world. So
Yes.
you'll hear yourself say, so just literally free think out loud and just talk, right?
Yeah.
And you'll hear, I can't. Well, no, I shouldn't. I must do this, right? And like anytime we hear can't, should, and oughts, those are the ones that I watch out for.
Okay.
And the more that you work on it, the more that you can notice it yourself, but also in
Yeah.
other people. And
Yes.
that's part of the skill and part of the piece where um one of my best friends, she's like, I absolutely love your advice, but I hate it at the same time. And I was like, why? And she's like, because you just dig deeper than other people
Yeah.
do. And like, you really challenge my thinking. So if
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to go do this or date this guy, you're like, but why? Like, and you're curious about like the why. And all of
Yeah.
a sudden I have to explain myself. And it's like, no, actually, you're right. That was completely not aligned with who I am as a person or anything, or like, that's something someone else told me that I needed to do.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like once you start to like blend all these things of, I'm going to look at my negative thoughts, I'm going to bring in that gratitude piece and go, hey, look at the good things that I'm good at. And I think
Yeah.
it's so hard to compliment ourselves because I
It
turn
is.
gratitude into affirmations,
Yeah.
right? Where I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm so grateful for my strength and ability to help others grow on their journey, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it becomes affirmations that I tell
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And when we're first starting, again, you get to choose if you want to adopt these strategies in your life or not,
Yeah. Yeah.
but post them in your like bedroom somewhere where they're on a little sticky note. And every single day when you get dressed, or mine are in my bathroom and they're just on the mirror, and I change them every
Yeah.
couple weeks, months, however long it takes me to notice, like, oh
Yeah.
no, I'm tired of repeating these ones. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want
You need
some new
something
ones,
fresh. Yep.
right?
Yep.
But something as simple as that, or doing it as like a family activity too, because I think
Mm-hmm.
about like the biggest gift that I think we can give the future generation, which I'm hopeful that some of this work will do, is just believing in themselves and
Yeah.
hearing like I'm enough for who I
Oh,
am
for
and
sure.
I'm allowed to be unique,
Absolutely.
right? I
Yeah.
think about like in our society, we have a normal. And I ask people all the time, like, what is normal?
Yeah. What is
And
normal?
they're like,
Exactly.
well, people that like own a house and like have a nuclear family. I'm like, and why is that normal?
Yep.
Like, I'm like, I know so many families that are blended families. There's like stuff that's happened in their lives, whatever else. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not nor like, sure, you can label it and put it in a box, but why aren't
Yeah.
we celebrating our uniqueness?
Yes,
Right. So,
absolutely. Yes. We're striving to be something, to be like everybody else.
yeah,
If that's what your idea of normal is, right?
yeah,
Oh, yeah. And I also, when you talked about like the awareness piece, catching yourself when you're saying one of those, I think that's also what you start to notice is you catch yourself quicker, for one
Mhm.
thing, and you don't stay in that negative as long, right?
Yeah.
Like that spiral. It starts you catch it quicker, you change it, you're out of it, and you're on to the next thing. And it's another win. Like every time you catch yourself, it's like, write that in your win book. Like I was starting to go down a path where I was really beating myself up because I didn't get this done and I was feeling really stupid. And I you feel yourself just, and then it's like, oh, and then I went, no, what? No, that's not true. Like whatever
Oh
those
yeah.
words were that I was saying to myself was like, this is not even true. So it's like, I got to make sure I got to write that in my win book or in your notes
Oh
on your phone or just to remind yourself, yeah, that was great today. I caught myself and
yeah.
and I got out of that cycle quicker than I've ever gotten out of it before. Like again, just paying attention and really
Totally.
celebrating your wins. Like you said, like celebrate that. Those are things that once you celebrate and it feels good in your body, your brain is going to keep
Mhm.
bringing those opportunities for you, right? To feel that way again. How do I get her to feel that way again? Okay, this is what we got to do. So I love the awareness you're bringing to people. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
I
I
love
think
it.
like one piece too, so the awareness and things like that. But I think sometimes people are just so stuck in patterns, and we talked about it earlier, finding what you're good at and figuring that out. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I was lost, I Googled it. And I know that seems so silly to just Google a
Yeah.
list of activities you can try to find to get
Yeah.
yourself to be unstuck and
Yes.
then just trying it. And I
Yeah.
think for whatever reason, I'm still trying to figure out where this fear of failure
Yeah.
really comes from for so
Yeah.
many people. Because
Yeah. I
if I can
agree.
break that code and like give you the solution, like I'll make a course about that immediately.
Yes.
But we're so worried about, and I think it's, if I think fully about this, I think it's being in a vulnerable position
Mm,
because we always want to be in control of our environments, of who we are, how we present ourselves. And if we're not even the slightest bit good at something, then we're like, nope, I'm just gonna, that's not in my box kind of thing,
right.
right?
Right.
But I give people things all the time about like for art. I'm like, for artists, they didn't become like amazing like that kind of thing.
Yes.
Musicians, entrepreneurs, like everybody kind of pushed themselves to expand past that
Yeah.
initial failure,
Yes.
right? So don't get discouraged if one day you do something that's your old pattern. It takes years to rewrite what you've learned for so long and
Yes.
what you've been doing,
Yeah.
right? So that's where like something as simple as just linking gratitude to dinner with the family or linking it to something like a friend group thing, or for myself or self, I do some things on social media where I'm like, cool, we're going to do a gratitude challenge this week because,
Yeah.
why not?
Why not?
Right?
Yep. Yep.
People love it. And
Mm-hmm.
that energy of gratitude and also being authentic, because I think one piece we have to really pay attention to is gratitude should not become just another checklist. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
about that self care,
Yeah.
anything that's really important and like, oh, I guess it's the what we should do. But anyways,
There
um,
you go. You
those
got
types of
yourself. There
things.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't want to trap it in a checklist because if it becomes a checklist of like, I have to go do this now,
Oh
then
yeah.
it defeats the purpose,
Yeah.
but also the intentions, just the energy changes, right?
Yeah.
It's a negative experience, not a
Yeah.
positive, and then why would you want to keep
Yeah.
doing it?
Absolutely.
So when I think about that part of like, let's not trap ourselves into
Mm-hmm.
this box. Um, I was taught a long time ago, I can't remember who taught me this, but what are you grateful for and why?
Well,
Because
yeah.
if you're linking it to your why, then you're actually putting yourself in that intention.
Yes.
Because I've had people say, and also don't put too much pressure on yourself to do like 10 things I'm grateful for and why every single
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Because if you're a busy woman, you're never going to get
Yeah.
it done. Because trust me,
Yep.
I tried and
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I feel like a failure now. Like I can't
Yeah.
complete this task.
Yep.
So I switched it to what are 3 things that I'm grateful for and why? So I can spread them out throughout my day kind of thing,
Yep.
right? But that part was game changing because if not, it's just a list. It's like, oh, I'm
That's
grateful
right.
for my shoes. I'm grateful. And we start getting materialistic with
Right.
that gratitude list
Yep.
because we're trying to grasp at straws rather
Right.
than like, I'm so grateful I had peace this morning when I was drinking my coffee.
Right.
I'm so grateful that I hate snow. Just
Yeah.
saying so. Like, I know we're getting to the end of summer here and I'm like, oh no. But hate snow. And one day, like, I found gratitude in snow and I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm a new woman. Like,
That's
oh,
big. Yeah.
how did I do this? And it was
Yeah.
literally because it was blowing off of a roof and it was sparkling as it was falling in the sun.
Beautiful.
And I was like, now I don't love snow, but I can be grateful for snow.
Yes.
Right. So like,
In that moment, right? Just a moment.
right.
Yes,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think on that part too, I think it's really important that we highlight the also the practice of compassion and grace for ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Because in those times where you don't feel grateful for anything, have some compassion for yourself in that moment. Because I've seen all those things too. It's like you can always find something to be grateful for. And yes, maybe, but there's some times where it's just like, I just don't got it. And
Yeah.
you know what? Sit with that for a minute. Give yourself some grace. It doesn't
Mhm.
always have to be the way we say it should be, or you've heard somebody
Yeah.
say it should be, you know. And if there's days that go by and you don't do your 3 gratitude list, it's okay. Like
Oh
we
yeah.
get so caught up on, like you said, the failure part. I think failure is also a lot of we're worried about judgment. And that's why we're so scared of failure. We're worried about what other people are going to think. And but I like the gratitude and compassion part, it's like we put so much pressure on ourselves. And there's
Mhm.
just got to be some of that that's let down a little bit. That's just,
Yeah.
okay, I did my best today.
Yeah. Well, and I have
That's it.
2 strategies that I do that changed my life that were the moment that I feel like I'm going into that space, I try and again, I'm not perfect by any means,
Yep.
and you'll see
Mhm.
exactly which phrase helps me in those moments. I'm a human being and I'm allowed to be imperfect and I'm allowed to make mistakes
Yeah,
because
beautiful.
then mistakes aren't failures.
Right.
Mistakes are just little speed bumps. We can have a little oops and everything's fine.
Yep.
But if we label it always as failure, then that's like a big, I don't know, that's like a
Oh,
really big, intense word that
yeah,
has so much weight to it. But a mistake,
absolutely.
okay, I can learn from that. I can
Yeah,
grow from that.
yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what the other strategy was. Now it's slipping my my mind here. Um, when we're feeling that way, I might not get it back.
It'll come to
It
you.
might
It'll
come back.
come to you. I know for me, and I share this all the time because um, it's so simple, and some people will think is just absolutely the cheesiest thing ever. And that's probably why I like it because it makes me laugh every time I say it. But if I do something like that, and I've taught my girls this too, or if it's just something that's just like, I can't believe I did that. Um, I always say to myself, "Oh, Carrie, you silly goose." And silly goose
Yeah,
is just my word to make me go, it's not that big of a deal. Like,
yeah,
move on. It's a silly
yeah,
goose. And away we go. And I smile and I'm like, yep, that's all that was. And we can keep moving. But
yeah,
I think some of those, like you said, strategies or a tool is they've got to be quick. They've got to be simple. It's just that moment of like, oh, got it, caught it, turn it,
yeah,
go. Because if it gets too complicated, and I'm only saying this from my own experience, if something gets too complicated, I don't do it.
yeah,
I need to remember
yeah.
something really, really quick for me. And that silly
Mhm.
goose is what works for me. But
Yeah,
you're going to bring, and what I bring is different ways, different tools. And then you choose which one works best for you. Because, like, in your mental health background and your psychology degree, there is no one fit. It's everybody, right? I think what we're doing is just bringing awareness with some tools and strategies, helping and just inviting people. What do you think might work for you? inviting them to try something different or to think about it maybe in a different way, change your perspective a little bit. And the other thing that I want to make sure that we get is you're guiding them, but they're doing the work, right?
Yeah.
You're there to guide. You're not there to fix. They're not broken.
Mhm.
And it's
No.
just the piece that I love so much is there's people out there when you feel alone that
Mhm.
can give you a little bit of hope that things can be different.
Yeah.
And I
Then
think,
the one part is oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I just think I mean, you just, that's to me what you embody is
Mhm.
is hope. There's that spark. And
Mhm.
I just love that you are following your passion, which you sounds like you've always done in difficult situations, but there was a knowing so deep in you that you were made for more and you were meant to help people. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing. So you followed those nudges, even when I'm sure there was times that was
Oh,
very
yeah.
difficult to do that.
Like,
And I
"Wait, what
just,
am I doing, and why
yeah,
did I decide to do
exactly.
this?" And, like, "Can I
Ex-
go back? No. No,
Exactly.
that's not good for me. I gotta
Yes.
keep going forward."
Yes. And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts is what I say to everybody is like once you start this work, it's like
Yeah.
there's no going back. Like once you
Yeah.
understand and can see the changes that can be made, there is no going back. It's like, sorry, too late. You're already in. Like you can
Yeah.
see that there's a way that may work for you, and you're never going to want to go back to feeling that way. And you may dip, we might dip in there, but there, that there's a way that is going to help you. So tell me then, you're starting a course. Is it a group? We'll wrap it up so
So
that I want people to know how to get a hold of you. And if you're starting a group in September, you said, I think September, right? Yep. Can you give me
yeah,
an idea
so
what that looks like?
there's gonna be the mini course. So it's like half the course, but it's the full content of half the course. So you're not
Okay.
missing out on like, okay, I only bought the smaller package and
Right.
now I don't get all the strategies that I
Right.
actually need to be able to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And then there's gonna be like the full course, and there's also gonna be the course and coaching option as well.
Oh, nice.
If people are interested in reaching out just for like some individual coaching, I do have some spots available. We'll just have to
Yeah.
figure out what works for our time zones and just all of
Right.
that stuff and schedules.
Yeah.
But the hope is to keep moving forward with this. And
Yeah.
then I also try to host once a month just a little workshop that's a like
Nice.
little freebie of everything that we're kind of talking about.
Love
So
it.
it's all scrunched into one. So it's a little bit like
Yeah.
if you're in, you're in because it's like, hey, we're going through this and like
Yeah.
get ready to be a little bit vulnerable because we got to figure out a goal to be able to get kind of through this, right?
Yeah. Love that.
But yeah, hopefully that'll be all set up.
Okay.
The goal is for September 1st
Okay.
so that we can get that rolling. If
Okay.
people want to get a hold of me, I'm on Instagram. So it's the real Ashley Dawn. And then I also have my email as well. So ashleydawncoaching@gmail.com. So
Perfect.
feel free. Keep an eye out if you're interested on my page. I'm going to be starting a new initiative that highlights just women who help us sparkle. So it's like a
Mm.
nomination type based thing where just people who have made an impact and gave a piece of their sparkle to help
Yeah.
inspire others, they
Oh,
get the shout out.
oh,
So I did
that's a
this the
great
other day
initiative. I
and
love it. I love
yeah,
it.
I went to an art show and like a garden art show.
Yeah.
And these ladies are amazing at art.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is really weird, but like, can I do this for you? And they just started smiling and like
Oh,
just the energy they brought and the
yeah.
gratitude after the fact. I was like,
Yeah.
nope, we have to make this a thing. Like, there's
Yeah.
too many women out there
Yeah.
who are making the world sparkle every single day that don't get enough recognition. So
Yes.
you can reach out through Instagram or through my email to be able to let me know. And then the
To
plan is to
nominate
either
somebody.
interview them.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so great. That's so great. I love that. That is
Yeah.
just spreading it all over. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being on here for um
Mhm.
sparkling for us. Uh what you're doing, and I said at the beginning, I think what you're doing is well, sounds like it's what you're meant to be doing. That's for sure. And
It makes
you're
me sparkle, and that's how I know I'm on the right path.
I love it. And I love that you're looking at that 20 to 30 range. And I think it's going to be so beneficial for people to follow you, check you out, see what you're up to. I love that initiative that you just talked to. Nominate people, start putting that on social media, and what people are seeing in the feeds that they're getting is fantastic. And you just bring a lot of hope to people. And I just commend you so
Thank
much for that. So I'm thrilled that I met you. And
you.
I
Yeah.
cannot wait to follow you and watch this journey unfold for you. And I hope, and I just know that the success is just waiting for you. And we always
Thank
say
you.
our intention is to help. So success means something different for every person. But I
Mhm.
think we're similar in that if we can help one person,
Oh, yeah.
it's success. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
help one person. And like you said at the
Yeah.
beginning, it's paying it forward. You
Mhm.
learn something, pay it
Yeah.
forward, help somebody else, put your hand
Mhm.
out, help them up, whatever it is. And I think yet that
Yeah.
you are a true example of that. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you on the next episode. Talk to you later.